and I think I've basically got a lot of the love from the fraternity because of him. As I've said to you, that keeping his legacy alive is very integral for me, and be it in the quality of cinema that I will put out on celluloid, or the relationships that I've inherited that I have to nurture, and also the philosophy of Dharma Productions, which is to put the people over and above the success or failure of a film. Yes.
Hi. So my question is that, like you talked about, there's a lot of changing faces of cinema, right? As a movie maker, how and when do you pick up on, say, the sense that, look, the audience is now looking for something else, especially given that the Indian audience is so diverse, that how do you even judge, and which audience? Is there a division in the audience, in the Indian audience?
I have to say we are the most polarized audience ever. We have a grand divide between the multiplex audiences that are urban plexes, that are then plexes that go, to different income groups below that. Then there are single screens, and there are two types of single screens. The ones that actually work in the bigger cities, and then there are single screens in smaller cities and towns. So to make a universal blockbuster is really an art form. And I think you can only do it if the syntax of your cinema comes from within, naturally. I don't think you can plan it. So there are so many examples, like a few films like Three Idiots that actually sweep across the nation's demographic. I think that's probably the only film that has appealed to almost every kind of audience. And I think that's Raju Hirani's genius, that his writing is something that connects to the entire country. Every kind of demographic, every kind of audience, from students to parents to, all kinds of, whether the mass audience, the multiplex audience, high-end, low-end, all kind of audiences loved that film. But as a filmmaker, I know we struggle with kind of achieving large numbers, but I don't think I'm capable to achieve, to kind of do the writing or kind of put out a film that can achieve success with every demographic. It's not in my writing syntax or my directing syntax. So as I said, that there is an audience for every kind of film. So whether it's a niche endeavor like Kahani, Vicky Donor, that will kind of do the numbers, then there's also the Chennai Express that will do huge numbers. You may not find an audience that has loved both films equally. There will always be a divide. And if you actually keep listening to people and their divided opinions, it can drive you absolutely mad. Because if you go onto a social networking site, you go onto Twitter and Facebook, they're completely bitching out the movies that have done glorious box office numbers. So if you're wanting to strike a balance, you'll never manage. If you want to appeal to both, you won't manage. So go out there and make the film you know. And if you don't know, don't regret it, because that's what you're all about, your own level of talent. Yes, ma'am.
Karan, I have the honor to know your dad.
Yeah, sorry, one moment, please. You stood up. It's really a good idea if the questioner stands up, so that we see you and Karan sees you and the audience sees you.
I stood up, Bachi. Just making my stand clear.
Karan, very quickly, I have the honor and privilege of knowing your dad around the time that you were born.
Oh God.
In the Mahalakshmi
How old
days.
are you? I'm all of 41.
As antique as I look.
No, you don't. That's why I'm really shocked you don't look it at all.
Yeah, and he always somehow felt, let me tell you, that you were going to shape into a wonderful person, and I'm so glad that you proved him right.
Thank you so much.
But to get back to my question, what advice would you give for filmmakers who, for the young kids of today who aspire to be in your shoes? Do you intend to set up a film school of some sort so that they have the right kind of guidance, the right kind of fallback, the right kind of inspiration? Because apart from a few schools, there's very little professional help that the young kids of today who can't afford the high fees get, right? So
You
how
know,
would you deal with that?
I don't think I would love to impart that education. In fact, I have given like lectures and talks about cinema that I love, Hindi cinema that I grew up on. I'm not so sure that, you know, technically I'd be the right person to impart that level of education. Also, some of my films, as you might have seen them, are hardly academic in their approach. In fact, some of them I think I just got lucky with. So if I had to kind of use my own example, then I think destiny played a far more important part in my growth as a filmmaker than my actual talent level. I think that I came with an interesting kind of a feel, but I'm a very mediocre writer. I don't think I'm a great filmmaker. I definitely think I got lucky. I think I understand a certain zone of cinema that only I know. So if I had to, I would think there are better filmmakers who would actually be far better teachers. Like I think somebody like Raju Hirani should do a writing master class very often. He's the best writer. I think Dibakar Banerjee is a sheer genius. If anyone following the footsteps of the great Satyajit Ray, if anyone is showing any spark of that genius, it's Dibakar. So I think Zoya and Rima are great writers. I would love to kind of talk about the business of cinema and make a student understand the various kind of audiences we have, you know, the exhibition network, understand what business is. So that's what I would be better at. But if you had to ask me, creatively, technically, writing-wise, I should not be the person teaching anyone anything. Because a lot of my career is destiny and luck-based.
Well, you continue to be a very humble person, and God bless you.
Hi, Karan. I believe you narrated the different phases of, say, romance in Hindi cinema. I just wanted to relate this with the social and the political messages which comes along with the kind of, say, the story. And if you see like pre-independence or say post-independence, where we are having also this aspect of socialism as a part of the, I would say that main story. How you see this, like this message of social message or political message getting married to this element of romance, various colors, what you have highlighted, going forward in the new age?
For a minute, I thought I'd sound clever. Then I just thought I don't know how to answer this question, so I should just because the thing is that romance in our cinema, in a sense, is very roughly based on the you know, the political atmosphere of the time. Like, you know, during independence, things were more guarded. So that's, I spoke about the romance being more guarded. And then when we got freedom, we all ran to the hill stations because, you know, that was our own way of celebrating our freedom. And then there was the economic repression, there was emergency. So that's where Bachchan was created, because Bachchan was created as the anti-establishment representative of the angst of the common man. And then when we dealt with that, we just decided to go brain dead for a whole decade, which is the 80s. Which is where we went back to the remaking South Indians, where pots, pans, ghadas, matkas, and they started dancing for no reason. It's only actually with certain kind of, when I think the times were not reflective very strongly, so the love kind of walked its way and family came back through Suraj. So I think in a sense, even the 2000s, I think, which showed the evolution of the younger mind in India, that's where cinema also changed, where the youth factor kicked in, because I think the young voice became so predominant, be it politically, socially, economically. That's when it allowed cinema to breathe. You know, there were so many new topics. The best films, actually, 2001 is actually a very, very important year. It started the tide of mainstream cinema changing, with Lagan, Dil Chahta Hai, Chandni Bar, all three actually showing the times. You know, kind of, Lagan was a film that was rejected by almost every male lead before Aamir took it up. Dil Chahta Hai was being directed by Farhan Akhtar, who was considered a grand wastrel. Like, they thought that there would be no future to poor Farhan Akhtar, till he made the coolest film and made me feel like I made the most idiotic film in Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. When I saw Dil Chahta Hai, I was like, this is really brand cool. So in a sense, 2001 was an important year, and then post that there was a great influx of cinema, Rang De Basanti, Tare Zameen Par, Chak De India, which continues right up to today. So in a sense, the times do definitely change as per, the cinema definitely adapts to the changing times and trends. And today I think because I feel India is definitely more free, more verbal, far more expressive, and therefore that's what the celluloid also does. It's all the above. It's verbal, it's expressive, it's out there, and it's unabashed. It's not worried anymore. No filmmaker is worried to make the film they want to. In fact, we are slightly curbed sometimes by certain level of policing, censoring. More important, the policing that comes out of ridiculous groups that come and send you to courts. Like, I fought more cases than I should have for the kind of movies I've made. I have a case on every film of mine. Even if you breathe, there's an objection sometimes, you know. So it's kind of really scary. Those things, I think, are our impediments. If everyone, local groups, religious groups, social groups, just allowed our cinema to breathe, we would be out there making far bolder, far more interesting, far edgier films. The only thing that really restricts us is no longer the censor board. It's actually people, some people who decide to kind of stop our growth.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, we have time for just about 2 more questions. Let's get the lady here and the gentleman at the back.
Hi.
Hi.
Since you're talking about love, it's still a very narrow sort of a group of people that we look at when we portray love stories. I mean, certainly heterosexual, certainly a certain class, you know, caste is not even ever mentioned, honestly, in most mainstream cinema. But there have been changes, and you can trace the changes in your films itself. I mean, starting from Kal Ho Na Ho to Bombay Talkies to, you know, far more wholesome, nuanced ways of non-comical, offensive ways of portraying characters, different characters. So do you see such changes happening? Do you see, say, same-sex relationships being portrayed in mainstream cinema and not just whatever alternative cinema is called, and you know, these, I mean, being looked at as real, like, people with like complex shades to them rather than just certain alternative characters, caricatures?
Look, I mean, at my own end, I've addressed infidelity, I addressed you know, quiet homosexuality, expressed homosexuality. In my own way, I've tried to push the envelope without tearing it. But when I was casting my short for Bombay Talkies, there were about 22 actors that refused both paths. You know, so at the end of the day, I wanted to make that film with so many actors, but nobody wanted to do it. And I understood that they were worried. And I kept saying that, you know, it would not be painted or projected in any way that would be awkward, uncomfortable, or in your face. But it's also, I think that there are two kind of, it's a double-edged sword. While people want to do different things, they're also worried about their image, they're worried about how the media will react, their fan base. A lot of it is really in their heads. But unfortunately, there's very little as a filmmaker I can do to alter the mental makeup of most movie stars. Movie stars are a different ball game altogether. They have a different way of thinking, they have a different zone, they come from a different headspace. And God knows that breaking through that is like a book in itself. But I'm not getting into that right now because I could go on for about 10 hours about how the altered mind of a movie star needs to be addressed very, very, very strongly. Because that is something that is not in my control. But to answer your question, yes, filmmakers are very ready with content, but are actors ready to take that chance? I don't think so. When I addressed Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna, all the actors were awkward, like they were really having that affair. And I was like, this is a movie, you're shooting a film. They were all behaving like this is morally wrong. Like Preeti kept coming up to me and saying, why is he cheating on me? I said, but he's not cheating on you. The character's cheating on you. You know, so there was like Rani whimpering away and saying that, why am I doing this to my husband? I said, you are not doing this to your husband. You are doing this to the character in the film. So I think sometimes you tend to take all this very seriously. Everyone builds up an image in their head and then they want to kind of live up to it. So it's tough. It's tough in our times. You know, we have very few working actors that are mainstream in that respect. And if you want to make a big budget film with a bold theme, then you need to cast a movie star because that's what makes it viable. And a big movie star is not about to take a chance. Unfortunately, I would love to make a Brokeback Mountain, but will I find two mainstream men to do it? They aren't kissing on screen, I can assure you. Maybe they'll kiss off screen, who knows? I can assure you that there's enough that happens behind the scenes. But let me tell you, on screen, everyone wants to be a Vestal virgin.
We'll be able to take just one last question. The gentleman in purple.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a question. Do we see India now ready for more art films with Ship of Theseus and Lunchbox coming in this year and doing well with the audience?
You know, I'm somebody who doesn't call it art cinema anymore. I think that's a divide we shouldn't make. The lines are so blurred. Lunchbox is actually a commercial success. It netted about 22 crores. A film with Irfan, Nimrit and Nawazuddin that was so tiny in its visualization and tiny but so large in content and so amazing in execution that it broke through all parameters. So I think Ship of Theseus was of course viewed thanks to the support lent and the fact that it was such a genius endeavor. I don't think there used to be this parallel and commercial divide in the 70s and 80s where there genuinely was like, it was considered a festival film, arty. Those were slots made. Today, I don't think that slot is made. If you ask me, Kahani would have been considered an art film in the 70s. You know, because in those days, if you were female-oriented, you were arty immediately, unless you were Khoon Bhari Mang or something like that, you know. So there were all these kind of strange stereotypes. We don't have those. We've broken the shackles of the stereotypes today. Vicky Donor, Kahani, Tare Zameen Par would have been considered a full parallel film. The hero comes in at midpoint. You know, and he's not, then there is no love interest in the film. That to me, an exhibitor in the 70s would have told you, ye to art film hai bhai. Ye to idhe nahi chalne wali. But I think those lines are blurred and thank God, more power to those blurred lines because those blurred lines result in outstanding cinema. And I hope that more power to those minds who create that.
Mr. Johar, thank you for the fabulous keynote. Ms. Chauhan, may I request you to wrap up the session with Ms. Bachi Karkaria, Festival Director, please?
This is highly out of syllabus. I didn't realize I was supposed to do any wrapping up. I think I'm sure there are lots more questions that were left in people's heads, but I think it was a great session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you once again, Mr. Johar. Thank you, Ms. Chauhan, for wrapping this up. Thank you for being a wonderful